Good afternoon, Texans. Today is September 16, 2013, and you are watching the Texan Sports Minute with this sports fanatic, Trevor Peele. It was a great weekend in the sports world, and we are bringing you some of the biggest things that happened, including Texan football with another upset, Texan volleyball, Alabama and Texas A&M, Texas Rangers slowly declining, NFC East losers, and many other topics to keep you refreshed from the weekend. The Texan football team traveled to Arlington, Texas this past Saturday, where AT&T Stadium, formerly known as Cowboy Stadium, hosted the LSE Festival for the second consecutive year. It was a season opener for the Texans, and once again they found themselves playing number 13 ranked Midwestern State. It was a slow first half for the Texans. It took them almost 2 full quarters before they put any points on the board, but with 52 seconds remaining in the first half, quarterback Aaron Doyle ran it in to put the Texans on the board, trailing 10-7 going into the half. The Texans didn't stop there, though. They put 27 unanswered points on the board to lead 27-10. The Mustangs fought back hard, scoring 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but it wasn't enough as the Texans held on to again upset Midwestern 27-24. The Texans utilized both their senior quarterbacks to pull away with the win. Doyle and Jake Fentz combined to throw for 182 yards. Doyle was 13 for 17 for 75 yards and a rushing touchdown, while Fentz went 11 for 12 for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. The running game was also a big help. Jerome Regal had 18 carries for 86 yards, and Zach Henshaw had 19 carries for 87 yards. On the receiving side, Bubba Tandy had 4 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown, and Clifton Rhodes III had 8 catches for 50 yards. After the game, Coach Kerry Fowler said, "Holding Midwestern to 75 yards rushing was big for us. Also, our crowd was phenomenal. I have always said that Tarleton fans are the best, and they proved it tonight. They made the difference and deserve a lot of credit for the victory." The Texans play San Angelo in San Angelo this Saturday at 7 p.m. The Texan volleyball team traveled to Golden, Colorado this past Friday to play in the Colorado Mines tournament. On Friday, the Texans defeated Fort Lewis in 3 straight sets and defeated Western Oregon in 5 sets. According to TarletonSports.com, Danielle Barker and Stacy Murrah had career nights. Barker moved into second place all-time in assists during the first game and set a new career high in digs and assists in the second game Friday, while Stacy Murrah, senior hitter, set a career high in kills with 27 against Western Oregon. Her previous best was 17, which came against Arkansas Fort Smith in the same tournament last year. The Texans have 2 home games this week. On Friday, they play Cameron at 6 p.m., and Saturday they host Midwestern State at 2 p.m. Both are conference games. They look to improve their 5-4 record. In college football, the number 1 ranked team didn't change this morning as the new polls came out. Alabama still sits on top after defeating the Aggies 49-42. The Aggies dropped from number 6 to number 10. Even though Manziel had 2 crucial interceptions that helped Alabama secure a win, he still kept A&M in the game with 562 total yards and offense, not to mention all the extra running around he did to keep the place alive. Alabama trailed 14-0, and it looked great for the Aggies until Bama put up 35 unanswered points. A 95-yard touchdown from Manziel to Mike Evans midway through the fourth quarter electrified the crowd and gave them renewed hope, but it just wasn't enough. It was a tough loss for the Gig'em Nation, but 2 things were proved. 1, Manziel's still the favorite to win a consecutive Heisman, and 2, Roll Tide will not face anyone as challenging as Manziel, but they could get rolled over as they still have a couple stiff opponents to face. In saw them off news, the Longhorns do it again. They get ran over by Ole Miss. Everything looked great for the Horns as they took a 14-0 lead with Case McCoy picking apart the Rebels with short passes, but the Rebels soon found a running play that worked just like BYU did last week. As the Rebels trailed 23-17 going into the halftime, that's all she wrote for the Horns. Ole Miss held them to 100 yards total in the second half while they poured 274 yards on the ground against them. After firing defensive coordinator Manny Diaz after the BYU game, the Longhorns brought back a former defensive coordinator from 2004, Greg Robinson. Even though the Longhorns were more aggressive this game, it still wasn't enough as they fell 44-23. The Longhorns are 11-10 at home since 2010 and have even lost 7 consecutive games to ranked opponents. All I can say is so much for a bowl game this year, Longhorn fans. Looks like another subpar season. According to ESPN, number 16 UCLA rallies back to erase an 18-point deficit to number 23 Nebraska, who dropped out of the top 25 with a 41-21 loss. The win came 6 days after the death of wide receiver Nick Pascal, who was struck by a car in his hometown. Bruins coach Jim Morris said, "You can't believe how tough it was on them. You never want to say you won one for somebody. We didn't win one for Nick. What we tried to do today is go out and play with the type of energy, enthusiasm, and passion for the game that will reflect what he meant to us." The Bruins wore number 36 patches on their jersey, while the Huskers wore number 36 decals on their helmets. The Bruins scored 35 points in 16 minutes. The Huskers still had fight in them, trailing 38-21, and moved the ball from their 25 to UCLA's 12-yard line, but it just wasn't enough. For all you Texas Ranger fans, a flashback from last year's collapse is creeping up on you. The Rangers have gone 0-6 in their homestand and got swept by the Oakland A's Friday through Saturday. With 2 weeks left in the regular season, the A's take a commanding lead 6.5 games ahead of the Rangers. It's looking like now they better start paying attention to the AL wildcard race. After beginning September 2 games ahead in the division, they now find themselves 2-11 this month. The Rangers didn't lead once in all 6 games and have yet to home run in any of them as well. That is their longest drought since 6 games in 1995. The Rangers square off against another tough opponent today in the Tampa Bay Rays, who has the same record, 81-67, and lead the AL wildcard race. Rangers have won 3 of the past 5 matchups against the Rays. Let's hope they can continue that, or they can kiss the playoffs goodbye. No ground was made in the NFC East as all 4 teams, Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, and Redskins, lose this weekend. The Cowboys, who started off against the Chiefs looking great as Romo connected to Dez Bryant with his first 5 passes for 100 yards and a touchdown. After making the Giants commit 6 turnovers last week, the Chiefs went another game without throwing an interception or losing a fumble to beat the Cowboys 17-16 and improve their record and tie last season's total wins at 2-0. Chip Kelly loses his home opener to San Diego 33-30. San Diego showed the NFL that the Eagles' high-tempo offense can be shut down. The Redskins fall to 0-2 after getting destroyed by the Packers. They quickly found themselves down 31-0 as Aaron Rodgers torched their defense for 480 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also, Eli goes 0-3 against his older brother Peyton and falls to 0-2 overall. After committing 6 turnovers last week to the Cowboys, they turned the ball over 4 times, all Eli interceptions, and still searching for some type of running game as David Wilson can't hold on to the ball. The Giants bring back Brandon Jacobs and hope to mix up the backfield. So far, no team has shown to be any more dominant than the other. That's all the sports I have for you. Thank you for joining me today on the Texan Sports Minute, where it's all about sports and all you need to know. This has been a product of the Texan News Service. You can read up on your sports or news at texasnews.net or follow me on Twitter at Texan News Sports. Special thanks to Alyssa Wynn and Megan Kramer for producing today. Have a wonderful day, Texans, and don't forget to bleed purple.